Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is internationally syndicated solely due to the love and support that you all continue to give. We're available across all major distributors, and as long as you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in, because on the line with us today, we have the impressive James C. Cobb. And we're going to be discussing his incredible book, Big Green Circles in the Desert. It's Amazon. It's Barnes & Noble, man. It's a lot of other places. Before I go any further, I want to quickly point out the fact that James was brought to us by City of Books. So for writers out there listening in who have gone through their process, and now you're sitting back and you're listening to me and you're like, Benji, I need some assistance, man. I wrote this book and now I don't know how to move it. Head on over to cityofbooks.com and gather all the ways that their fantastic team is more than equipped to help you do just that. People, when you start to do research on this book, you start to read it, man, you're going to be thinking back and you're going to look. Listen, trust me when I tell you, this is not science fiction, okay? It is one of the most ambitious engineering projects of the 20th century, okay? But I want to know, and this is what today's discussion is about, what was it really like to be one of the human beings tasked with making it? Today, we sit down with James Cobb, who takes us behind the satellite images into a story of staggering ambition, unexpected beauty, and the personal cost of bending nature to our will. This is one that is going to be as entertaining as it is profound. Sit back, strap in, and get ready to purchase your copies by the time we've concluded. James, first and foremost, welcome to the network, and thank you for being a guest. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well, and I'm just thrilled to be here and to talk about this book in the desert. So thank you for having me.
Listen, man, the pleasure is all ours. I think, like I mentioned in the opening, man, when we were doing research on this, I had to continue to go back and ask my team. I'm going to my research team, and I'm like, are you guys sure this isn't a fictional book? Are we sure this really happened? And they had to keep reiterating to me, like, no, man, this is some real stuff. So we're looking forward to the discussion here. James, start off first and foremost. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, man.
I'm retired. I was a state geologist of Kentucky. I spent a career as a geologist. I got a PhD in geology from the University of Illinois, and then quickly transferred to Kentucky. It was the leading coal state, but the reason I was in fossil fuels and energy is because of my experience in the big green circles, because energy became a big deal, and I had experienced all this by working in the Middle East. And I thought, when I get done in the Middle East, I'm going home and getting a degree in energy. So I did.
James, let's not wait any longer, man. Without further ado, walk us through the book, Big Green Circles in the Desert. Tell us more about it.
I got a job offer as a student at the university. A man who had a company in Beirut, a groundwater drilling company, was looking for geologists. And I was just finishing a master's degree, and I got hired. That was a good thing. And back then, the salary being offered was absolutely staggering. It was huge, big for that time. The downside was the home office was in Beirut, which had, as most people know, violence and turmoil and things going on.
Yeah.
But the other downside was that the field area I would work in most, I would work in Syria and Egypt and spend most of my time working in Libya, which had just undergone a coup, and Colonel Gaddafi became the dictator of Libya and wasn't particularly friendly with America, but they needed Americans there to run their oil business and to drill water wells. So I was welcomed in, and I spent a lot of time there.
James, thank you very much for that, man. Okay, so my next point that I want to go into, let's talk about inspiration here for a second. Because first and foremost, let me preface by saying I'm glad you wrote the book. Because for someone that isn't involved in that particular field, I wouldn't have come across this otherwise. So this was a completely profound thing that I had discovered in just doing research in preparation for today's interview. But I want to ask, and I could assume, but why would I do that? I have you here. Why did you feel compelled to write this book and to publish it?
It was so unexpected. Here I grew up amongst cornfields and soybeans. I grew up in central Illinois. But the thing was, we had a family friend who was in the CIA in Beirut in the 50s. And back in the 1950s, the Soviets and America and Great Britain were all competing to get favor with all of these Middle Eastern countries for oil and other things. And this family friend he would come and visit and bring my brother and I Arabian daggers and all of these leopard skins. And well, to us, he was like Lawrence of Arabia. Anyway, I wanted to go to the Middle East, and I got a job offer to go there, even though my parents were pretty much, this is back in the 70s. My parents weren't thrilled because there was a lot of turmoil.
Yeah.
But I was just beginning my career as a geologist, and I thought, gosh, this is great. I'm going to get all this experience over there and then eventually come home and get a big job somewhere. I was lucky. The company apartment was in the middle of the largest PLO refugee camp in Beirut, and we would go in and out, and these PLO fighters with AK-47 would stop, and we would get in big discussion. They were not aggressive. They were not nasty. They were bored, and they wanted to talk. So we would talk this Middle East politics, of which I knew nothing at that time, with these PLO guys, and I really didn't know much about it, but I learned quickly that there are people who are bound and determined to do what they're going to do.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't hurt me. They didn't act like they were going to hurt us. Back in the 70s, there were hijackings, there were bombing, but oftentimes they would let the passengers off the plane, then they blew it up. Things today have gotten far more violent and deadly. Back then, there was a little bit more of a concern. So there were times I was scared. When I would fly back and forth from Beirut to Libya and go through customs in Libya, and all of a sudden we were in a third world. I'd had no idea what a third world nation was like. And then I found out our contact there was in Benghazi. And then eventually, when all of our equipment arrived, I had to drive with a fellow who couldn't speak English 500 miles into the Sahara Desert to our camp, and we got lost.
Oof.
We got lost. There are markers out there in the desert, 1 kilometer apart, and we kept aiming for each one so we could stay on what was known then as the Italian road. But at some point, we veered off, and we were in trouble. We had hit a big bump and lost our water. I thought, oh my gosh, I haven't even started work yet, and I'm going to die out here. And we ran into a Libyan soldier who was at the entrance to the oil field, and you had to have a pass. Luckily, we had passes, and we got to stay with this fellow and the night. And we had 3 watermelons. Well, we were eating the watermelons, and he was feeding his camel out of the plate we were eating off of. And I go, oh no. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. I'm eating after a camel, but he saved our lives and got us to where we needed to go.
Yeah.
So that worked out and saved my life. If we had missed him, we were gone. We weren't going to ever come back.
People, listen, man, I'm at the edge of my seat, and I know so many of you are as well. I'm going to say it again. It's Amazon. It's Barnes & Noble. Pick up your copies of Big Green Circles in the Desert today. This is one you're not going to be able to put down. James, you're already talking to us about your experience, and thank you for moving in that direction, because I want to continue to go into that experience. Now, shifting back to this particular project, first and foremost, I love the title, right? Like Green Circles in the Desert is a powerful image. There's something that is enticing about it. And obviously, outside of the obvious project, that is what was represented. But there is that title, that symbolism, that image that comes to mind is great. But now I want to hear it from you, man. Like on the ground, what was that experience of standing at the edge of one of these perfect man-made circles, looking out at the endless
desert. What was that juxtaposition like for you? The feeling, the sensor. Tell us a little bit more about that.
First of all, driving across the desert is just like what the old cartoons and the old movies about the mirage.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely true. You see these waves and the pavement, or there's no pavement. The sand looks like there might be water out there, but of course it's just the heat radiating off the sand. And sometimes you will come across something like a Coke can that was been discarded, and because there's nothing for scale. It's like being in the ocean. There's nothing for scale. There's not a tree. There's not a grass. There's not a weed. There's nothing. The can looks like a 55-gallon drum. You can't tell the difference until you get to it. And it's no wonder people get so disoriented out there because there's nothing. You're just looking out at the horizon. And we had some American engineers came to build a power plant out there. And unfortunately, they did, whereas we veered off and veered into the oil camp, they veered off the other direction, and for 6 days were not found, and one of their members died.
Wow.
And getting lost, everybody really paid attention to where they were, because once you got out of sight of the camp itself, you were on your own, and you better keep track of where you are out there, because there's nothing on the horizon that's going to help you find your way back.
My goodness. Okay. Listen, people, as we start to close out, okay, you all know me, okay? This is a thing that I do. When we're having these discussions, I'm always in my mind, like I'm thinking of what are ways where we can connect this back to the reader, to the everyday person, messages to be found once we read in between the lines. On the surface, we have this incredible expedition that we've already been discussing, and there's so much nuance there. There's so many things to be found. So, of course, picking up the book, reading it, you're going to learn about the journey directly. When you read in between the lines, though, I think that there are messages to be gained here. And that's where I want to go next, man. As we start to close out, James, every reader has their own desert, right? They have their own challenge, daunting period in their life, right? They don't always have to travel to the Middle East to get that. So if we can read in between the lines here for a second, what is the one lesson or insight from your time in this Libyan desert that you hope becomes, okay, let's continue to use these puns, that you hope becomes a green circle for the reader facing their own barren patch?
There are always good people. And even though the country, like Libya, sacked and burned the American embassy in Tripoli and one in Benghazi back then, and they declared all Americans must leave right away, people came rushing up to me and said, "We don't want you to go. Don't go. Don't go." There, you find the good people in all these situations, no matter how dire they may seem. There are always good people, and if you can connect with those people, they'll support you, they'll help you, they'll get you through. And that's what happened to me. I was just fortunate to always have those people. There were Egyptian people, there were some Libyan people, there were the company doing the drilling, where back then Yugoslavia was still a country. And I connected with a lot of these different people who all helped me in different ways to get through these things, and actually turn it into an adventure that now I look back on more fondly and think it was a growing time. I learned things, I worked with people, and I could come home with all this new knowledge and experience and do better.
People, listen, man, I'm so glad he gave that answer. And of course, this isn't scripted. I had no idea that he was going to go there, but it works out perfectly because he's talking about the human connection. And that's what I was hoping he would go towards, because that's what resonated with me as well as listen, throughout history, there are all these monumental, these colossal projects. But when you really start to decipher it, and listen, this particular project is no different. Behind all of these projects, at its heart, is a collection of human moments, of sweat, of doubt, of camaraderie, right?
Yeah.
And people coming together to unfold in that way. And I think that is such a brilliant connection to be made. Trust me when I tell you there's so much more on those pages. But if you take nothing else from it, take that notion. Because I tell you another thing, right now, where we currently are, you look around, you're like, man, what is it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of that happening right now. Listen, people, do your part. Pick up your copies today and embark upon this journey. And hopefully it inspires you to build your own big green circle someday. But you know where it begins, man. Pick up your copies. James, this has been a true pleasure. I really do mean that, man. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Benji, great job. I just love talking to you, and thank you for all that you do.